The Listening Hive, Episode 1, Against the Gospel of Greed, a tale of bees, myths and belonging. Welcome to the Listening Hive, a space for stories and reflections from the edge of the old world and the stirring of a new one. I'm Mike, a beekeeper, writer and wanderer through the fields of ethics, care and imagination. Today's episode is called Against the Gospel of Greed. It's a story about bees, but also about an old fable, a strange idea, the myth that is assuredly destroying our world, and the myth that might just help it to mend. So make a cup of tea, find a still space, and listen with me. It began, as many good things do, with bees. A few years ago I started keeping them. Just one hive, tucked at the edge of the garden in Leeds. A national hive I bought from a man in Keighley who seemed to know more than he said. The kind of man who speaks to his bees, even in the winter. Beekeeping, I quickly learned, isn't just about bees and honey. It's about noticing. The weight of the hive, the tone of the buzz, the shift in mood before a swarm, the colour of the pollen, the flow of the nectar. The bees taught me to listen with more than my ears. And in the middle of this apprenticeship in attention, I came across a book, The Fable of the Bees by Bernard Mandeville. A strange title, an odd little thing from the early 1700s. And stranger still, it argued that private vices make for public benefits. That greed, ambition, and even deceit were not flaws, but the necessary ingredients of a prosperous society. At first I thought it had to be satire, some early modern joke, but it wasn't. Mandeville meant it. And his ideas shaped Adam Smith, and through Smith, much of modern capitalism. I remember putting the book down and just sitting there, listening to the bees. And something in me said, no, this can't be so. You see, Mandeville's fable isn't just an odd historical artefact. It's a myth that still burns beneath our economy, our politics, even our education systems. It's the logic behind greed is good, behind trickle-down economics, behind the story that says, if we all pursue our own self-interest, the market will sort everything out. And as the ships carrying the gifted rise, they will generate wealth that will trickle down and pay for services needed to support the poorest. All ships will rise on a sea of private vices and self-centeredness. But that story has brought us to the brink. It's given us billionaires building rockets while food banks grow. It's given us productivity without meaning and growth without limits on a planet whose limits are becoming very clear. It's left us clever but not wise, connected but not in relationship. Philosopher Ian McGilchrist might say this is what happens when the left hemisphere of the brain, the part that slices, counts and controls, takes over. It sees the world in fragments. It wants to own, to grasp, to maximise. It sees a forest as timber, a river as a utility, and a person as output. And that, my friends, is the logic of greed. But it doesn't have to be that way. There is another tradition, quieter, older, still alive in the soil. It's the tradition of care. Joan Tronto, a political theorist, speaks of an ethic of care based on attentiveness, responsibility, and solidarity. Not sentimental, not soft, but radically practical. To care is to stay, to listen, to tend to what is vulnerable. To care is to ask not, how do I win, but how do I belong? Or, what is being asked of me, of us? What does it mean for me to care, here, now? What does care ask of me? It's what beekeepers do when we open a hive, and it's what we must now do for the world. After reading Mandeville and letting that sour, twisted, ecocidal logic sit in my bones for a while, I decided to write another fable, one from the bees' perspective. In my version, the bees are watching a great human city buzzing with activity, but drowning in ambition. A city powered by greed. They watch as the people cut down forests, poison the soil, and forget the flowers. The bees begin to disappear. But then, a strange thing happens. A virus comes, not as punishment, but as pause. The city stops. The people breathe. And, in that stillness, something shifts. They see the sky. They hear the birds, and they notice the last bees. And they choose to live differently. Not perfectly, but in relationship, in gratitude. The bees return, and the city becomes gentler, something wise. I call it the fable of the city, as told by the bees. It's not a utopia, but it's a beginning. And I wonder, what kind of story are we ready to live in now? Because we're in a moment between stories. The old one, where greed is supposed to lead to greatness, is tired. But more than that, it's dangerous, deadly, but dying. A new story is stirring. One where care is courage, where enough is abundance, where we remember, as the bees have always known, that we do not thrive alone. We thrive when we take only what we need, not all that we can. Thank you for listening. If this story spoke to something in you, please share it, or better still, live it, in your work, your neighbourhood, your daily breath. You can read The Fable of the City and find more reflections like this at mikechitty.blog or on Substack at freshthinking.substack.com. Until next time, keep listening. And if you're lucky enough to have bees nearby, stop and greet them. Watch them for a while. Listen to them. They might just be telling the truth.